All right. What up? What up? We are live with @ChessLiam on Twitter, the winner of Ball Mania 2. So we got a real live winner, expert best ball drafter in here. We are attempting to fill a big dog, which is the $250 entry draft on Underdog Fantasy. If any of you guys got the bankroll to join up in this thing, by all means, join into here and we'll get this thing rolling. If we'll give it like 5 minutes or so. If we can't get it filled, then we'll just pivot to like a BBM3 or whatever. But Liam, welcome to the channel. How you doing? And you can plug whatever you got to plug as well.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me on. Looking forward to ripping a draft and talking with you guys. I know we've been talking behind the scenes for a while, trying to get a stream going. So we're going to see if we can get this big dog filled. I've drafted 2 so far of the big dogs, and they seem to fill easier a little bit later at night. Like I think they filled around like 8 p.m. Eastern. It's 5 p.m. Eastern now. So what? We'll give it, I don't know. I just joined at 7 more. We'll give it 5 minutes, and if not, I'll pivot to, I think the puppy's about to fill
95%, I believe.
And how are you guys doing today?
We're doing well. Good. We got plenty of folks in the chat that will be able to fill time for us right now while we're waiting for this. So we got Brock, first one in here, OG of the channel, at work right now, but I'm doing work by myself, so I had to jump in. Spicy Yacht's got 5K on the Ravens winning today. You need to call a gambling addiction site you're betting on the preseason week 1. He needs to tell me this his late round sleepers he hit on Penny and ARSB last year. Okay, so I'll let you tell the story here, because you got all the spreadsheet nerds all hot and bothered about the week 17 correlation after what you did last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was a little ahead of the curve on that, and I think it's kind of like become an avalanche. But like the week 17 stuff is just, if we're talking BBM3, the final field is 460 people. I have a background in DFS, and so I kind of think through a DFS lens with the contest. There's lots of different ideas out there. Hey, we're at 6. We're at 6, guys.
There you go.
All right,
50%. We'll give it 5 minutes from here, and if people start trickling in, we'll give it a go, and if not, we'll pivot. But I want to point out I drafted 150 teams in BBM3. I did not have a Monra and Penny on all of them. I did have quite a bit of Penny, and everything is a thin bet, but as far as trying to win the contest. But like the logic for Penny was pretty lizard brain simple shit, where it's the Lions are a bad run defense. The Seahawks are playing a bad run defense that I think is going to be a bad run defense. So I had a lot of Chris Carson and a lot of Penny. It just so happens Chris Carson went down, and Penny happened to be on my winning $1,001 team, Spicy Hot Taco. Never forget the $1. Underdog did that to make sure I won the biggest contest of all time.
That's what's up. I actually it's funny because you mentioned you thought of it in a more DFS frame of mind, because one of my questions is actually going to be in best ball in general. Would you say it's more of like a DFS line of thinking because of that pay structure at the end, or is it more of a redraft where you want to get points every week and then hope your team spikes at the end? Because obviously with DFS, you want that correlated spike week, which is why you talk about week 17 so often. But how would you kind of differentiate between ultimately getting there versus once you're there, having all the marbles on the table, if you will?
Yeah, the way I think about it, and there's some very sharp, smart people that I respect that think differently about me. It's part of the reason I really like best ball, is that it's an unsolved game. It's very new. This is my 3rd year playing best ball. I just happened to stumble upon it on DK 2 years ago. And then last year was my first year on Underdog. And, the first year I played, I looked at the whole playoff schedule and I was like, okay, I remember I did not draft Dalvin Cook strictly because I thought they had a hard run defense schedule in the playoffs, which is when we're talking about thin things, that was really thin. Now, that was bad for a couple of reasons. A, Dalvin Cook turned to be a super high advance rate player that year. Although B, he did not have a good playoff schedule. And it was kind of that year I was loading up on Derrick Henry and loading up on Austin Eckler because I liked their the Titans that year played like the Jaguars and the Jets, like, so some bad teams. I have a spreadsheet that I can go back and look at all of it that I keep, but wow, we're 5 more guys. We're going to fill this bad boy.
Well, I'm making the executive decision. We're filling this thing.
We're filling this.
But as far as trying to, I think even before we talk about like the playoff rounds, some people come with the mindset of, hey, the NFL is so chaotic. So much is out of your control. Your goal should be advance as many teams as possible and just let fate take over once you get to the playoffs. I did not approach it that way last year. I really tried to build teams I thought could win it all, even if I knew I was sacrificing advance rate. And I did advance below mathematical expectations. So if you do the math, 2 out of 12, 1/6 of your team should advance. If you draft 150, that works out to 25 teams out of 150. I advanced 19 out of 150. However, of those 19, I made 6 to the semifinals. Now, it should be 1 out of 9 times, the whatever. So I advanced way over expectation into the semifinals. And of those 6, I got 1 to the finals. Now, why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Some people like to throw up their hands and say, hey, the market's really efficient. You don't want to, you don't want to have too much of a player because if they get injured, it could ruin your season. And I mean, just looking at how, like, I'm trying to win money when I play best ball. So just like looking at how the prize pool is, like the fact is, if you just look at that, like let's take this year for Best Ball Mania 3, first prize is $2 million. 10th place out of 455,000 people is $20K, which $20K is a lot of money, but that's 1% of first prize. So if you're not trying to optimize for first, that's a mistake in my opinion. Now there's a lot of different things we can do. One is, again, I advanced the below mathematical expectation on my teams, but those 19 teams I advanced, I think were really unique for a couple of reasons. One, I was doing like thinner structures that I thought were unique. The other thing is, and this was just kind of an accident, is I was really below weight a bunch of league winners last year. And last year was crazy. If you didn't play best ball last year, like with COVID coming in, like half of the league had COVID week 16, which is the semifinals. It was mayhem, man. But I ended up getting a team into the finals. And again, being high exposed to some players, there were several people who had 3 teams in those finals. Like that's crazy. You had 3 teams in the finals, several people. And so, I don't know, man. It obviously got like, I'm not the best ball player in the world. I think I'm pretty good. I think I approach the game sharp, but you got to get really lucky to sun run such a large field GPP contest like this. And I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. So you guys,
I mean, the sun god helped you run it. So
you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking like that finals, what Amon-Ra, Chase, Penny, like all those guys were what? I mean, Chase and Amon-Ra were what? Chase was number 1 at wide receiver that week. Amon-Ra was probably what, like second or third, and then Rashad Penny also had like a 25-point week as well. So like overall, I'm just thinking about like if you could like hit the nuts of a DFS lineup just that week, you had all of the players that you would have wanted.
And you know what's funny? It's because I play daily fantasy and I primarily play on DraftKings, but that week because I had a team in the finals, I only did combinations of my finals team in the DFS teams because I didn't want to be like have different sweats, So I was like, okay, I got to get Chase and Noah Fant, and if I had entered more lineups, I could have taken down a GPP too, because a bunch of my players were nutted. I just like chose like the wrong combo on the teams I built or something. It was funny.
Yeah, that would have been a wild. Sweat going from app to app.
I also have to ask you that moment when you realized you were number 1 in the finals week. Where were you? what was your reaction? Because I need to hear like the juicy parts. Because when it happens for us this year, I want to know what to expect.
I shotgunned a beer when I won a fucking $500 tournament on DraftKings. I can't imagine winning $1,001,001. Can't forget about the $1, of course.
So here's the story. I actually was on one of my best friends' bachelor party, and we were down in Key West. And 2 years ago, when I first started playing best ball, as we would get towards the end of the season, I would text the group chat and I'd be like, all right, boys, week 14. Can I get a week 14 in the chat? And one or two would be like week 14. And then we'd be like, okay, boys, I made 3 teams to the I advanced 25 teams to the playoffs. Can I get a week 15? A couple of them would be like week 15. And I'm sure they were just whatever, Liam's gambling over here, whatever the hell he's doing. They're not gamblers like that. And then it just so happened, I was like, hey, boys, I got this team. I know it's the bachelor party. They like football too. So we were watching the football games at a house in Key West in the morning. And Jamar Chase's game happened then. Josh Allen put in 2 on the ground, which was key because I didn't have Burrow. And none of the Bills pass catchers got there, which was also important for my team because I only had Cole Beasley. And then so it was pretty good. And then we went to a bar and got some beers and had some food to sweat. And that is when Amon-Ra and Penny just started ping-ponging back and forth. I was like, holy shit, this is starting to get pretty live. And I had a team in the puppy finals, which was $50K to first. And I was actually in first in the puppy finals in the morning games. And so I was like, hey, I got 2 sweats right now. Obviously I want the BBM2 though. Who cares about puppy? And I ended up finishing 6th place in the puppy, funny enough. And then what really sealed it for me, where I was like, I think this is happening, is Noah Fant scored a garbage time touchdown against the Chargers from Drew Lock. And at that point, I was like, oh, damn, I have a pretty sizable lead. And the only games left then were the Packers were playing the Vikings, right? I think, which is a repeat this year. Week 17. And then the Browns and the Steelers played. And a bunch of people had Chubb because Chubb was how the ownership condenses in the playoffs is pretty fascinating. For example, why Noah Fant was so key is Mark Andrews was on 50% of the finals teams. There's some players that were really, really high owned. Just because if you have a good quarterfinals, even if you're a 4% advance rate player, if you have a 50-point week 15, you're going to be 50% in the semifinals. How the ownership condenses is really fascinating. And so having that Noah Fant piece was huge. And then the other guy that had a good game but didn't crush me is Cooper Kupp. I needed to fade Kupp. I needed to fade Andrews. I needed to fade Devontae Adams. Had a big game, but he didn't bury me either. So it was wild, man. The boys were there. They were sweating with me. We were ripping beers. They ended up they went back, of course, for the bachelor party. I stayed and watched that Steelers Browns game by myself and was rooting against Nick Chubb and the game was going pretty good. It was a bunch of dink and dunks, a bunch of time was running. I was punt the ball, it was crazy, man.
And then when the whistle went and the 4th quarter was done and the game was over and you realize, holy fuck, I just finished 1st place. I just won $1,001,001. I could just imagine, again, if I win anything now, I have to second guess myself. I'm wait, no, this is real life, right?
Dude, I had a generational sweat in that week 17 battle royale when I was that Mike Williams touchdown away from winning $3,000. I was literally sweating my ass off at that. I can't imagine a $1 million sweat. We may have to make an executive decision here.
I like to think I'm a little hardened, but no, it was crazy. And the thing is, it doesn't feel real until the money hits your bank account, because it was then I needed to wait until Thursday for stat corrections to happen. Then I needed to wait a week or so for Underdog to send me the wire, and I missed an email or something. So I was you're okay, I won, but I don't have the money yet. And then once the money finally hits your bank account, that's when it's Holy shit, we did it,
Yeah, we actually got a question in the chat too from our moderator, Spicy Odd. He said, "What was the biggest purchase you made with the winnings?"
So I'm not a big material guy. I'm more of an experienced person. The biggest purchase has probably been re-gambling. Like I'm pretty invested for a couple of reasons this year. It makes sense tax-wise to gamble kind of heavy this year.
Yeah.
But I went to Vail, Colorado, did a ski trip. And yeah, I've not bought any big items. Like I got myself a pickleball paddle. But mainly going to use it for, like, I've never been to Europe. I want to go there soon. And yeah, no big, like, flashy thing, though.
No whips or anything like that.
No, definitely not anything crazy like that.
Yeah. We may have to pivot to a puppy here.
All right, let's pivot. Let's
pivot.
Unfortunate. We wanted to do the big dog, but the chat let us down. Brock said he ain't got guap like that. We
respectable.
That's fair.
I found it to be truly random. End up near turn. Okay, yeah. These guys are talking about their home league drafts here. What else we got in the chat? Yeah, you on board with this take right here from Justin? Top 5 or a tier of themselves?
Yeah, I think a big part of fantasy, historical fantasy analysis, things that are like researching structures and things that are researching where to take players and things in whatnot, different positions. Like, I think a big part that's missing is each year is different in both the draft landscape and like the players' ages and whatnot. So like last year, for example, I had some big fades in the first round. Like I had close to 0 Kamara, Zeke, and Derrick Henry. They were both really expensive, and I just didn't think they could bury me. Now, some of those were good process that paid out. Some of those, if we look at Derrick Henry, like I think that was probably bad process where I got a bit lucky. But this year, like I want to bring up, like there's no blemish on any of these players to me. Like this is not last year's first round. This is not two years first round. Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb. All right, with McCaffrey going, I'm still Cup over JJ. I want to get some JJ shares though. I'm like pretty light, so but whatever. I'm still Cup, and I would have gone McCaffrey. I'm not going JT in this puppy though.
Yeah,
where are you guys on the Cup versus JJ train?
It's funny because Corey is the JJ guy. I'm the Cup guy, and both of them are obviously fantastic, phenomenal, like wide receiver 1 alpha type of style players. The reason why I would still go with Cup is that realistically, what has changed in his situation to the point where he's going to fall from a 26 PPR? Okay, so half PPR, that'd be about 22 points per game to under 20. That's the question mark I have. Again, natural regression is going to happen. He's not going to go out and put up 1,900 yards.
Well, even if like 18 is more than like
exactly
Diggs gave you. To me, it's just the quarterback, and I mean, yeah, look, I agree that the elbow is something to be afraid of. What's changed for Cup? You could say target competition, like Allen Robinson being there versus like Van Jefferson. And
I will say to that, the funniest part of that is that he still played about half the season with Robert Woods, and his target share and his actual point per game output were pretty much identical whether Robert Woods was on the field versus when he wasn't. So maybe, again, right now, Allen Robinson's a better player going into this year than Robert Woods was last year. But like, what is the real difference in terms of the target competition between what Woods represented in his 5th year in Los Angeles versus what Robinson's going to do in his first year in Los Angeles?
Yeah, it's not that actionable where it's like, I want to be 100% Cup and 0% Justin Jefferson. It's like, I see the case for both. I want exposure to both. I don't want to be fading really any of the Jamar Chase plus players. And like, I include Eckler in the 106 kind of as like rock solid. Not everyone feels that way, and I understand why. But I don't know, man. It's Austin Eckler. Like, I buy him every year.
Yeah, that's fair. I have a hot take for my RB3. I like Eckler too. Eckler's certainly up there. But I mean, the reason why I would take Devontae Adams at 6 is because our running back 3 this year is going to be Saquon Barkley. As long as everything's healthy going into the year, like Saquon Barkley has all the bull case to make where he has the profile that can enter that, JT, Christian McCaffrey, 20 plus point per game type of ceiling.
It irritates me that Danny's higher on Saquon than me.
I have Diggs over Adams myself.
Respectable.
Pretty comfortably. I mean, look, I want shares of Devontae in an individual game. He can do it, but I want to be, but like it's this weird conundrum where like I really want to be in on the Raiders passing attack where like I think Derek Carr will approach 5,000 yards and
he nearly threw it last year.
And he was like close last year, I think, and they just ran cold on touchdowns. So like I want to be
4,800 yards, 23 touchdowns to 14 picks, which is weird because if you ask like somebody how good was Derek Carr's season last year, they'd be like, oh, it was like the best of his career. But like 23 to 14 touchdown to interception ratio is like worse than Carson Wentz by like a wide margin last year.
And I mean they were like rolling out Zay Jones there and Henry Ruggs, who are like fine NFL players, but not I guess we'll take Tyreek. He's a guy I've kind of come around on too, who I was pretty cold on. But with Devontae, it's like just how, like I think there's some very niche connections that can happen between quarterback and wide receiver. And like Aaron Rodgers to his number 1 is one of the guys like that. Who you guys like between these two running backs? I'll take the first name.
Fournette all the way. Fournette's got a path.
Guy there.
I've been going Fournette too, but I always like Chubb. He's never going to give you the legendary season for advance rate purposes, but
if you can get him in, he's got a high weekly ceiling because of what he can do on breakaway plays and stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. His high weekly ceiling and like you would almost like whatever. Let's say Fournette scores 300 points and Nick Chubb scores 200 in the season, but then it's like if Nick Chubb is 8% represented in the playoffs and Fournette is 25%, like give me Chubb then. And it's hard to think through.
That's the hard thing for me separating because, part of the reason, many of you guys listening have heard us say like do these to practice for your home leagues because they're paid mock drafts. It's the sharpest ADP you can get. And part of me wants to say don't draft Nick Chubb because I wouldn't draft him in a home league. But when you bring up the point that, like, if you can advance the dude, I will admit, Nick Chubb's a phenomenal running back, one of the best in the league. He can have, DFS games. And there was plenty of weeks last year where I wrote him up in my DFS articles as a great play because you give him positive game script and a lackluster run defense, and he can run, for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns if he needs to.
I just wanted to say on Fournette versus Chubb, I wanted to mention in terms of the playoff weeks 14, 15, 16, 17. So like the main weeks, the money weeks that you want to count. You got games
not
that
14, not 14, just 15, 16. 17.
Okay. Sorry. I was thinking regular fantasy. My bad. 15 through 17, regardless. Tampa Bay versus Cincinnati in week 15. Tampa Bay versus Arizona week 16. And then Tampa Bay versus the Panthers in week 17. So realistically, if you're going to say a player that's got a huge ceiling in terms of potential scoring output in those games, like Leonard Fournette could go absolutely ballistic in terms of his receiving role, in terms of no Gronk. Like if Gronk doesn't play this year, realistically, in terms of that red zone offense, you're looking at Fournette, you're looking at Mike Evans, and probably Godwin's going to be healthy by then. But realistically, you're going to have a team that's going to score a lot of points, and Fournette's going to be relied upon a ton in those areas. We saw last year, once he took home of that full workhorse type of role for Tampa. I mean, in terms of full PPR, I don't really have it in half. I think he's about 19.5. But in terms of full PPR, he was a near 22 PPR point per game scorer week 4 on, once he was able to overcome that mini committee he had in the first few weeks with Ronald Jones. So I've been grabbing a ton of Fournette.
I don't think that's what the discussion was though. And I've been going Fournette over Chubb when I go running back, but like I think a lot of people just want to be like, this player is going to be better than this player, and like we don't want to think about things that are really difficult to think through and really complicated. We want to throw up our hands and be like, come on, we can't predict that. But the thing is, I think you can predict some players that would potentially be lower advance rate players, and I will mix those players in because I have the hubris to think that I can advance those players more than the field. So like a Javonte Williams. Some people love Javonte. Some people do not like Javonte because they feel like he's never going to have that role. Wow, we're getting a big discount on Zeke here. I'm not really a Zeke guy, but I feel like I got a scoop here.
Right. And that's, again, back to the point that nobody wants, including neither of us. Neither of us want Zeke in season long or any kind of format like that. But, man, if you can advance Zeke, like there's a chance that, maybe he we don't know what's going to happen. What happens if Zeke goes out like week 3, suffers like an injury and is out for 8 games, and you somehow advance him and he has fresh legs for the playoffs and he goes berserk in the playoffs? Like, that shit can happen, right? And nobody's going to have Zeke advanced unless you built out a great team around him.
Well, I was going to say the vice versa too. With Ezekiel Elliott, like, what if, he doesn't blow everybody away at the early portion of the season? What if he's not, top 6 running back? But as you kind of mentioned, the DFS aspect, if anything were to happen to Tony Pollard, or if Zeke in a high scoring Cowboys matchup,
like Zeke isn't like the high ceiling pick to me. He's the guy who, like, in best ball, like, the guys giving you consistently 12 to 15 points at running back, it is kind of like an advanced player. So that's why I usually don't take Zeke, because I don't really see like the 30-point ceiling much with him anymore. I don't think his week 17 matchup is that appealing against the Titans. I prefer to play it through the passing side, but he's like a guy who could get me there, and then I can build on the upside later. I was really waffling between Waller and Godwin there because I want to be buying Godwin, but with me making the bet that Tampa's going to do it on the ground, which I generally like to do it through the pass catchers, I just think the ADPs of Waller and Kittle are wrong.
I was just about to say,
also, Waller's on the thumbnail of this video, so appreciate that.
All right.
Well, I was just going to say with Waller, I mean, 5th round Waller, anytime he can get access there, bingo. Because, I mean, this should be realistically an early to mid 4th round pick for the most part.
Yeah, it's just he's in the same tier as Pitts to me. Like talent. I'm not, and I don't. The other thing that I think some people who are good at fantasy football get in the trap of is they just want to bet on talent and they want to ignore the offense they play for and whatnot. Like, take the Jets guys, like Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore is talented at football. I think Garrett Wilson is very good at football. I'm not sure about Zach Wilson. I see a Zach Wilson jersey in the back there.
No, that's a Joe Namath jersey, but you are in the wrong place when it comes to discrediting Zach Wilson. I will say that.
We are. We love our Jets.
We're betting. It's similar to logic that you've shown so far. Is we're betting on, most people share your opinion. People don't think Zach Wilson's good, and we know that. At least I know that Elijah Moore can play, and that Garrett Wilson can play, and that the Jets have done everything that they can to make sure that Zach Wilson will be good, including, he just lost his right tackle. They immediately went out and signed somebody. So to me, I think that the Zach Wilson bet is based on everything I believe about the quarterback position, things that we've seen from, lackluster quarterback prospects like Josh Allen being able to take the step forward when their team surrounds them with what they need. I like Zach Wilson as a prospect. I think he can become a guy that elevates the play of those around him. So I'm glad that there's plenty of people like you not in on Zach Wilson, because I am willing to make the Jets bet.
Yeah, it's not they're getting drafted every time, right? So it's it's not like the Jets are going undrafted, so you're not. But I would say if you're confident that a sharp section of the field is thinking one way, you can zig a little bit. Look, I draft Elijah Moore sometimes. I generally prefer to play it through Corey Davis or Garrett Wilson if I'm going to go pass catcher. I like Breece Hall a lot. I like that the Jets play the Seahawks week 17. That should be a terrible team. And it's much harder to play defense than offense. So when you have a bad defense and you're playing a middling offense, that's tough. The Jets, I think talent-wise, they're probably 3rd in their own division. But record-wise, it would not shock me if they finished 4th after the Patriots. I think it goes Bills comfortably, Dolphins, Jets roster on offense at least. I'm not sure about the Jets O-line. I know it's been pretty bad in the past. I think they've added some pieces there. Zach Wilson gained weight, getting some swag, I guess.
Banging moms.
He was the number 2 pick last year. But yeah, I don't know. It's I just find it hard to see any of them burying me because the AFC is just loaded,
I will add one thing, because we mentioned
hit me with it.
even if they have a lower advance rate in season, their playoff schedule is slated to be the Lions, the Jaguars, the Seahawks.
Exactly.
You can't
And
draw
that's
it up better than that, I don't think. And I have
no, you can't.
just
And like, they're not the only
absolutely-
team that's like the Jaguars too. Like, they have a really great playoff schedule in that sense. But I don't know. Like I think Zach Wilson's ADP is appropriate this year. But like, an analogy I could give is, I know you're a big Josh Jacobs guy there, so I want to ask you about that after. How you feeling about those preseason snaps?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not a big Josh Jacobs guy. I think there's a range of outcomes where he could be a guy that punches in a lot of touchdowns. That's basically my only kind of draw.
I agree because we want to bet on that offense.
Right.
By the way, I love that turn. I love that turn.
Yeah, Ayuk Lance. Hey, now we're back on track here. Now you're back in the good graces.
Yeah, I mean, the Zeke one is gross, but
our Jets darlings, but we love us some Trey Lance.
Are you guys Jets fans or just
No. I'm a Bucks fan.
I'm a Cowboys fan.
They drafted like every player that I love. It feels like all like draft process, dynasty stuff. Like,
I'm not a college football guy either, so I'm very open to being wrong on talent evaluation. I do feel like I'm good at guessing which team. Yeah. Like, it's not. So here's an example last year where I think the market was wrong, where this year the market's sharper. And I think the market's getting a lot sharper in a lot of different ways. But like last year, Odell, like OBJ was like pushing up Baker's ADP, where people wanted to like, they know that stacking is good, right? So they'd be like, look, I want to get Baker with my Browns players. And Baker was getting like overdrafted. Now Baker had the weird shoulder injury, so who really knows there? Maybe he turns it around. But, like, they would rather stack like a Browns wide receiver with Baker than Tyreek Hill and Baker or something like that. Like they would going out of the way to get these stocks. This year, the market's not doing that to Zach Wilson, right? Like, you can get Zach Wilson literally for free. So that's why, like, I have shares of Zach because he can do it on the ground. He bulked up a little bit. I like their playoff schedule. I like Garrett Wilson is how I like to play it the best. Elijah Moore, like, I want to bet on him, but he goes like right after Chris Godwin. He used to go, now the ADPs have changed, but this used to be a range where you could get Juju, you could get Gabriel Davis, you could get Mike Williams. And it was like, no question to me, it was a huge tier break to Moore there. And you could argue that after Moore, maybe it's a big tier break to like the Amari Cooper range, like these guys. But I don't know. I'm open to being wrong about how good the Jets could be. How do you feel about their schedule overall?
Well, I'm fine with it. I also wanted to mention, in terms of my Elijah Moore ownership, keep in mind we're also going to Buffalo next weekend.
And we will not be drafting as much Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson as we did in New York, because in June, those guys were literally free. It felt like Elijah Moore was in the range that we're on the board right now is where Elijah Moore was going. Like,
he used to go down here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, reason being,
he was like an early 8th, late 7th round pick. And in this draft, he went ahead of DK Metcalf, which even I wouldn't do.
Yeah. Like, I mean, reason being, I have 35.2% Elijah Moore at the moment. So if I can still be overweight, but not be that overweight, I'll be more happy with it.
And I talk about this on my channel quite a bit, but I think it's fine to take risers if you still believe in the player, but you need to do it tastefully, where to compete with the teams in the past, take players that have also fallen. So if you're taking someone that's really risen high, so whatever, Gabriel Davis, Elijah Moore, maybe you mix in some of these Josh Jacobs, so you have the same contexture of a team overall. You can't just take all risers, and then you're drawing dead to those super teams from earlier in the offseason.
Because if you have a similar team to one, except somebody spent, an opportunity cost on a player at the 7th round pick versus you had to take them in the 5th round, you're inherently going to be at a disadvantage. But again, if you could mix in a player where you got them at the 8th and they had to go and take them at the 6th, then it kind of balances out in the end.
It's pretty gross range. Really wanted to get MVS there. I
mean, we do have Tyreek.
We're gonna take Edmonds. We're gonna push. I'm gonna push it with my. But my question with I love Edmonds. I had a lot of Edmonds last year, but how much? I guess I have a bit much in the Dolphins here. But how much of a goal line role do you guys think Edmonds will have?
I don't think
pretty
I
much
think it's
zero.
I
I don't
it's gonna be
expect
Sony
him to have
Michelle.
a ton.
That's a tough sell then on Underdog, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be Sony Michelle, and I have, which by the way, in terms of Sony Michelle, he is currently my 5th highest owned running back at 18.5%.
Yeah, Sony Michelle's either the goal line back or cut. Like, it's
exactly.
Right. So I want you to explain that pick that you just made, because number one, I like Dawson Knox this year also, but number two, most people, general consensus is that if you take an early tight end, you should punt your second tight end and not draft a third one or whatever the case is. So structure wise, if you grab a Waller, a Kittle, a Pitts, one of these elite tight ends, are you likely to do what you just did? Grab a guy like Knox or Goddard or somebody in that territory, or maybe a little bit later? Or are you more likely to just punt that second tight end into like round 15 or whatever?
It depends. With the Waller Knox combo, I think with Knox, you can get there in a couple ways. He could take the step into elite territory this year, where next year he's viewed in this like George Kittle plus territory to me. B, at worst case, he's a really high ceiling spike week type of tight end where I think the tight end is routinely disrespected in best ball and fantasy. You have to start one tight end every week. That is one of your 8 roster spots. You know, like you don't have a choice. So if you're throwing in 5, like every year people try to think that they can piecemeal tight end late. And look, I have darts I like late too. I see the case for them, but every year it's like a couple guys actually matter at tight end and everyone else sucks. And so like with the Waller Knox combo, it's like I'm counting on Waller, whatever. Let's say it's like 10-point floor every week. And then you mix in, at worst case, maybe you mix in some 2 touchdown games with Knox. I like Knox is I really like Gabriel Davis, but I also like Knox, where if it's not Gabriel Davis, maybe it is because Knox is getting a lot of red zone touches. Maybe he won't see the target share necessarily that some of the elite tight ends get, but he has a really good rapport with Josh Allen. I'm a Bills fan, so I'm pretty versed on the Bills. Really good rapport with Josh Allen. He's a really high ceiling spike week guy, really high ADOT. And
they play Warzone together too, apparently.
Yeah, like after the Knox, it's like there's a couple guys I like here, but I'm not that comfortable with it. And tight end matters, man. And it's one of the easiest ways to get to the finals.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask you, because we did see in that round. Also, by the way, when did Jalen Tolbert become a 9th round pick? I don't know, but
yeah, that's a little.
He's getting untenably expensive.
He used to be like a 14th, 15th round pick. And I mean, at that point, okay, sure, but 9th round, like I'm a Cowboys fan.
I'm not clicking that button. But but that just shows you why on a site like Underdog you might want to load up wideouts early, because pretty quick, if you get in the wrong draft and people are drafting them, you're behind the 8 ball and you're trying, like you need to start reaching on some guys where it's like, okay, we just saw like Tyler Boyd, like we just saw MVS go here, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave, like guys we really see the upside case for, and then pretty soon you're looking at this. And,
we're like Josh Palmer.
like there's some names I like here, but it's like Devontae Parker. It's like, okay, you're not the same caliber of a dart as some of these other guys to me.
Right.
No, exactly.
And we know too, I've done research on, best ball win rates and just stuff that I've known for redraft leagues too. Dart throws usually, if you're in a standard 15 round redraft league, is usually better spent at running back because of the volatility of the position, the ambiguous backfields, and injuries and spike week potential that you get with those guys. Not to mention, like you said, everybody drafts wide receivers high on Underdog, so you get to this point in the draft and it gets really ugly really fast. So I usually tend to build out hero RB type of builds or whatever, and have 2 running backs by round 10 or whatever, so that I can fill out a couple more in these later rounds when everybody's like, oh man, I only have 3 wide receivers on my roster. I need to hammer out my Russell Gage shares or whatever the hell people are drafting.
I like Gage, man. I know.
I don't hate him now that he's going down
here.
Yeah.
No, I was in on him when he was this cost. I was not in on him when he was a 6th round pick, but I'm back in on him here. And this is a range though I typically really want to be taking running backs, because I really think some league winners are going to emerge from the
I do too.
From
I agree.
Rashad Penny to the
Henderson,
Madison plus tier.
I agree with that. I also wanted to ask too, because we did see in that round, in that 9th round, both Bills running backs go within 2 or 3 picks of each other. As the Bills fan, like which profile out of them do you prefer, or which one are you more so going to target since they're going at similar ADP?
I'm team James Cook. And I'll explain why after I rip a pick here. Now, like,
Go for it.
I really like Singletary. I think Singletary is very talented. I do not think Zach Moss is dead. I don't think people realize that Zach Moss is going to have a role on this team. And I think he was going like some of these injuries in the NFL go pretty underreported. What's your deal, man? Are you really injured? All right, maintenance. I mean, I just got to buy this dip on Claypool. He's not
14 pick dip.
He's not a button I've been clicking this year, and I had a ton his rookie year when he had that 4 touchdown game. I had quite a bit last year. I've not been doing it this year. Again, I usually try to take like RBs in this range. But with me having like when I take Cup, I really try to stress my wide receiver crew sometimes where I'm counting on Cup to be the guy. So I like White more than Spiller, but I have Fournette, so we're going to take Spiller. And then maybe I throw in one more running back here just because I want like a handcuff with me having Elliott. Like he's not a guy I really turn into like 30 points, but I could stop at 4 here. So with Cook, Cook's floor is probably Nyheim Hines, which he go like that's an 11th round pick-ish, right? His ceiling though, if Cook hits the ceiling, he's going in this range next year. And the case for Cook is I think it makes the Bills offense a terror compared to Singletary on the field, where like Singletary and Zach Moss are some of the slowest running backs in the league when we're talking about 40-yard dash time. James Cook could house the ball at any time. They're also Singletary was a terrible pass catcher, like one of the worst in the league.
Pretty sure the worst.
Yeah, like one of the worst, if not the worst. He's really good at running and cutting and making a guy miss, but he's not good at catching a ball and housing it. So James Cook adds the breakaway. I think that the Bills are going to run more 2 tight end sets this year than they have historically in the past. And what that does is it takes the slot wide receiver off the field, right? And you put James Cook out there and you can flex him into the slot late in the play. So now James Cook is quasi slot competing with McKenzie, competing with Crowder. And this is why I've not been drafting Crowder is I just think they're going to run the 2 tight end with like OJ Howard playing the blocking tight end role. And
I hate to tell you, you will be vastly disappointed with that.
You think OJ's not going to be
I'm
blocking?
a Buccaneers fan. Trust me. OJ is dust.
No, he can block though, right?
No, he can't. He has mental lapses all the time.
Well, he's a year removed from
as a prospect, he could block.
But last year he
had the Achilles tear, right? Which definitely affected his, explosion and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that takes a while.
He's like the Ronald Jones of the tight end position. The guy makes mental mistakes all the time.
I think
there's a play that Jameis Winston got credited for an interception with in the 30 interception season where OJ Howard tried to catch it behind his back and flipped it over his head to the defender.
Look, man, I'm not saying he's a genius, but he's a big guy.
I just had to get my 2 cents on OJ.
He's a blocking guy. He's a big guy who could block. And
I wanted Dalvin Cook that year for the record.
By the way, did you see that report or that quote that came out on Antonio Brown?
Oh yeah, that like Antonio Brown wishes that he could watch himself live or whatever.
He said, he's like, my only regret is not being able to watch myself.
To be fair, like he's pretty correct.
Yeah,
he's the best receiver I've ever seen in my life.
It's just funny because that seems like a tone setter's tweet.
It is. Yeah, it does.
Well, that was a pretty when he did that keep in mind that was week 17. He did that. I loved it because I didn't have Antonio Brown on my team. Yeah. I was sweating these Bucks guys.
Imagine you were sweating out like the person in first was like sweating out their lineup, and then that shit happens. Like you just can't account for that.
Yeah, Antonio Brown could have dropped 40 on me. I don't know, man. Like
I think he would have had a monster game too, because he was in line for an incentive too. If they had just like put him on the field, like I think he actually might have had a monster game too.
Well, and I got pretty fortunate because I'm a Bills fan, so I've historically been a little anti-Brady, and I pretty much faded everyone except for Godwin and Rojo. So I was just like wrong, right? Like Godwin, at least I was there, but I was wrong. And I got real lucky that they got shut down by the Saints, where all these Bucks teams were super high advance rate, and they all got blanked,
murked.
and
all of my
knocked out
teams were high Bucks exposure. I had so much Fournette, I had so much Brady, I had so much Evans. I had a stupid amount of all those players because I just knew that the offense was going to be really good. But
the question I have as well is we saw a couple of those offenses that kind of came out of nowhere and were that, potential league winning type of team last year. What team that isn't really talked about as one of the top offense do you think can take that next step to be, last year's Chargers or last year's
the Saints? I'm really in on the Saints this year. If Jameis is healthy, I think everything the Saints have done tells me they think they're going to be good at football. And I really like the pass catchers there. Their defense is solid. I really like this is not a range, by the way. I usually like to take quarterback when we take you one so early, but with me having two Miami pieces,
you have Edmonds and Hill there. That's what I was thinking.
I got to get Tua in teams like this, and it's after ADP. But yeah, like the Saints is a team I think could just whatever. The NFC is worse than the AFC, so it's easier to make the playoffs. Not that the playoffs matter strictly for fantasy points, but I think Jameis can have 3 to 4 30-point games in his repertoire. The wide receivers smash there. So I'm big on them.
The South too, for what it's worth, we play the AFC West out of division. All those high scoring offenses, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Raiders, and we play the NFC West too. The Rams, the 49ers, the Seahawks who are a dumpster fire, and the Cardinals who should be up tempo and fast paced and high scoring as well.
I just think Jameis is he could definitely be in production wise in this tier like this.
100%. Yeah. He's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback before. He's produced high ceiling games. And I heard Nick Underhill on ETR talking about, they want to go more of a balanced approach because they were extremely run heavy when
they can't do that. They can't do that with Jameis. That's not going to be.
I also heard,
do you see who they were throwing to? They're throwing to Ted Ginn still. Wasn't Kenny Stills on their receiving core last year? What year is it?
I also God, Marquez Holloway type. Oh my God.
Speaking of which, we got some preseason games tonight. Somebody asked the question earlier in the chat. I just want to break down a couple pieces of news real quick on those games. I don't think we're getting any Patriots starters, right? We're not getting any, Ramondre or Damian Harris or Mac Jones. I believe that was announced already. The Giants, I doubt we're going to see Barkley or anything, but Wandale will probably be exciting that everybody will want to see him. And then I saw the Titans said that Willis is going to play most of the game, and they said Burks will be on the field, so that'll be exciting as well. Doubt we're going to get anything on the Ravens.
Lineup in them with Willis because let's talk about the Willis Tannehill thing real quick because Tannehill has an ADP of 190 right now, which is in the 16th round. I think the reason that's happening is a lot of people got burned last year by him taking 9th, 10th.
Yeah.
He still did it on the ground. The only question is, what if Malik Willis is really good? Which clearly the NFL has decided is not really the case. And I wanted to be in on Malik Willis, but hard to click the button with an established guy there. How do you guys feel about the?
I think there is smoke to the maybe they're not that excited about Tannehill anymore as they used to be, but
in the future,
Tannehill's been top 12 in PFF passing grade the last 3 seasons without AJ Brown and Julio for half the season last year, and the previous 2 years he was legitimately one of the best quarterbacks in the league as far as his efficiency is concerned. So I agree. I think he's a little undervalued right now, and Willis is tantalizing from a dynasty perspective, and people like him in fantasy season long and stuff too. But I don't see him getting off on the field his rookie season unless they just bench Tannehill and they were that pissed at him.
This is a gross range. I don't even know who's healthy and who's playing. Corey Davis is good at football. I'm confident in that, so we're taking Corey Davis.
I also out of that range. I also like Marvin Jones. I mean, I think there's an outside shot he could potentially lead them in targets this year.
Yeah. I think it's clearly Kirk, and I like Zay Jones. I think Zay Jones with Trevor is a good fit. And generally, the way I play fantasy is if a 35-year-old dude's gonna burn me,
That's
I
fair.
lose.
Yeah,
just
Alec
like the
Pierce
other
is
year.
kind of interesting among this range
That's
too.
true, too.
He's been apparently doing well. In
No,
camp
Alec
as
Pierce
well.
is the guy I have a lot, but we're going with our guy, Will Fuller.
Will Fuller, eh?
Let's talk about Will Fuller. We're ripping a puppy here.
Hey,
What are your
if you-
thoughts? Are you in on Will Fuller? Is he signing? Do you have any inside scoops? Come on.
I was like
say-
overweight on Will Fuller last year. He burned the shit out of me because I was just like, yo, this guy was like literally a top 12 receiver in
I had
fantasy
a ton
points
of
per
Will
game.
Fuller last year.
I will say
Yeah.
something to watch carefully is how the wide receiver core of the Cowboys does in the preseason. Because right now they're like
They could be
holding
bad.
themselves down. But if guys after Tolbert and CeeDee Lamb don't step up, like as much as we want to be optimistic about Noah Brown, Dennis
Nobody's
Houston,
optimistic
everybody in that
about those
but
guys
like
making
you're hearing
But
that
that's not-
internally for the
biggest
Cowboys.
question with Will Fuller is not is he like, does a team want to sign him? To me, it's mentally, does he want to play football? And that's what we don't know.
That's
Because
fair.
there were some rumors like that he was going through some mental health stuff. And I mean, we know at least his agent wants him to play with the Aaron Wilson report leaking that, but I don't know about, does Will Fuller want to play?
If he wants to play and the Cowboys wide receiver core struggles this preseason, I can pretty much guarantee you there will be a call made.
Brother, I'll take him on the Bears at this point.
Well,
Yeah,
could you imagine
That'd
the
be
best
actually
ball
a great fit, to be honest.
Could you imagine though the best ball implications getting 15th, 16th round Will Fuller right now to like, let's say next week he signed with the Cowboys. Like, where do you think his ADP would actually land if he was a Dallas
He'd at
Cowboy?
least be at the very least, he'd be where Tolbert's going now. He'd be a 9th round, 8th round pick at the very
Yeah, I
least.
think he would like very quickly get into this range.
Woods
but
area?
then if like a couple camp videos
I mean,
come
Russell
out,
Gage went in the 6th round, man. It wouldn't
like
shock
he
me if he was
could
all the way up there,
rock
too.
it if he lands on like Green Bay
Or
or
Dallas. Yeah.
Dallas. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah. What do you think of you're the gambling expert here. What do you think of Brett's bet here?
Brett, this is an unhinged question, brother. You're in the right place. Hey man, if it almost worked last year, why not? Maybe just choose the one game to go over. I have no idea about this. What are the preseason lines even set at? I would assume it's pretty low.
I think PFF has like the data for like where the public money is going and stuff. Like you can there's degenerates enough out there that are like doing the research on this.
If we knew the players playing, I could better guess this. But like take the Titans. I would guess Malik Willis against Scrubs is going to score points, even if
I
it's
mean
on the
Tyler
ground.
Huntley's going to start for the Ravens though. Probably,
Yeah, that's
right?
another one.
But that's who they're playing. So maybe the Ravens I'll take Tyler Huntley in his third, fourth season against Malik Willis.
The only thing I know is if you're playing DFS, play two defenses because defense, if it's a showdown slate for preseason, defenses always smash, but they're on the field the whole game, and like there's like 15 picks a game. But
Please, is Saquon Barkley playing tonight?
that would be unusual. I don't
He's got.
I don't know if JK is going to play in the preseason at all, but I doubt.
I would doubt that. I mean, the way that with them only having 3 games now, most teams don't even play starters anymore.
Well, the Colts, you know what the Colts actually said that they were going to do? They said they're going to play number 1 in all 3 games, which is weird. And number 2, they were going to play their like dress rehearsal in the 3rd game, which typically the final preseason game has been reserved for the fringe guys, which is super weird that the Colts are handling it that way.
The reason why I mentioned with Barkley, he actually has a listed line 20.5 plus yards from scrimmage on Underdog right now.
That's an under, bro. I'm taking the under on that shit.
If he plays,
He's gonna get like 3. He's gonna get like
one...
3 touches and tackled in the backfield immediately because he
needs to get it in one play to.
He could, but I'll take the under on that.
Where are you guys? You guys on the pick'em slip right now?
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
Y'all are degenerates. All right, let me get some of this.
Dude, we also got I'll just smash the over in fantasy points for fucking
Davis
Malik
Webb's
Willis
pretty
if he's
good,
playing
man.
that.
Oh, but he's pretty high in his
Malik Willis over 16.5 rushing yards. Like, yes.
I think a player needs to see the field for it not to get pushed, though. So, like, if you bet the under on Saquon and he doesn't play, that doesn't get.
Does he need to see the field or does he need to see a touch? Like, that's what I'm confused about. Because if he plays, like if he just plays one snap,
It's either you need to be announced you're active or you need to see the field once. You don't need to. You don't need to get targeted or see a touch or anything like that.
Okay, so you just have to like see a snap.
I think so, because
Okay.
I think sometimes like teams like list a player active, but they're not really active, and that's been graded a push. But it's all in the rules. I don't remember.
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
These are also some interesting running back dart throw profiles that I don't mind in like the 16 to 18 range too. Because I kind of mentioned, obviously we have Edmonds in this team, but like this is a prime spot 17th, 18th round where I'm just smashing the Sony Michels, the JD McKissicks, guys like that. I mean, Daryl Williams is back down here didn't he get steamed up to like round 13 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's a weird range. We're going with Taysom Hill though,
I
because
dig it.
he can break fantasy football, and I wasn't planning to do a third tight end, but usually when Taysom's there, ADP, like he could literally just break fantasy
I think I
football.
need some more exposure to Taysom. I haven't
Yeah.
been, grabbing him enough.
I don't want to draft him, but anytime a team is going to list I think there's been some recent born
Yeah,
team,
that's my guy right there.
and that's some correlation against the Dolphins week 17.
I heard Aguilar might get cut, by the way.
Yeah, wasn't he like the highest price free agent wide receiver last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pats had a terrible off season of signing there, but
Yeah.
anytime you're gonna list a guy who could get quarterback snaps, wildcat snaps at tight end, like you gotta click the button. Like
Yeah, exactly.
on
What about
not every site lists him as a tight end, by the way. Some list him as a quarterback this year.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on McKissick? He went right after our pick. I know I am extremely overweight on him. He's my highest drafted running back. I have 26% JD McKissick. Because he was like pound for pound as good as Antonio Gibson last year.
Yeah, so I think McKissick is good, but here's how I've been seeing the situation is and Hines used to go in this range. I've not been taking as much recently, but I think Carson Wentz is very bad for McKissick. We just saw it with Naheem Hines. Like he's not this check down guy that's gonna hit it two option. Maybe it was the coaching staff. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's why I'm in on Hines. Like Hines with Matt Ryan, I really like that.
Right.
McKissick, I think I literally have 0 shares because historically I would have a ton of McKissick. Like last year I had a bunch of McKissick on all my teams because he's like that guy. But I think also
I don't know. I'd argue Heineke wasn't really like the check down archetype type quarterback either.
That's fair too. But I mean, now you're competing with not just Gibson, you're competing with Brian Robinson too.
Right. I think Robinson affects Gibson more than he affects McKissick. I think McKissick's job is his to lose kind of thing.
Maybe, but it's also like they have better pass catchers now in Washington with Jahan Dotson, with Curtis Samuel healthy.
For sure.
Curtis Samuel, people forget, was Deebo Samuel before Deebo Samuel was in the sense that he was playing. If we look at his game logs or his
he had a run the year that Bridgewater
he had
was the
41 rushing
there.
attempts, 200 yards, and 2 on the ground. Like the year that CMC went down. So would it be shocking to see him get mixed into the backfield too? No. So it's like I don't know. Washington's gross in that sense to me, but also. Like McKissick's never gonna break fantasy football. He could get you the spike week, but in general, I do try to take darts on guys that could be a James Conner or whatever. Like if anyone exists, a contingent value handcuff basically,
right?
Which there are plenty in this range.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Gibson? Just real quick, because he's not a guy that I like in season long. But does he have any of that shine that we kind of talked about with Chubb and with Elliott, where if you can advance Gibson, he has 4.3 speed, and we've seen him break away like 75-yard touchdowns before. I'm looking at their schedule right now.
Yeah, something I'm pretty big on is trying not to fully abandon my priors from the year past. Like I think a lot of people in fantasy football, either they're biased because a player burned them or they were proven wrong. And it's like, look, everyone loved Gibson last year. Not that much has changed. He's still a really talented player. On my
pretty awful playoff schedule, though, just looking at it. Giants, 49ers, and Browns, that is pretty brutal.
I mean, maybe the Giants and the Browns could be terrible if Deshaun's not watching.
Right, but like just their defensive fronts and their run defenses were like top 3 units in the league last year. And defensive carryover isn't always 1-to-1 or whatever. But
I think Washington should compete to be in the playoff hunt, realistically. And All right, so this is a range where really I can go running back or wide receiver. If I was gonna go wide receiver, I'd go Taekwon here.
I dig it.
And screw it. I mean, I think I will, but I think I should be adding another running back to this team personally, just for playoff reasons. I think having the 5 darts is there.
Well, like
but
Chris Evans.
I like McKinnon of those guys that are there.
If I was going running back, I would have gone.
Darrell Williams still on the board too.
I don't know if Eno was there. I would have gone Eno, or I would have gone like Hassan Haskins. Like the guys that
like a handcuff that could potentially.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are down on Derrick Henry, but they don't want to draft any of the backup running backs. That does not add up at all.
Yeah, and Foreman had some usable spike weeks last year for sure in Henry's absence.
Yeah, and for my portfolio, since I'm not taking a lot of Henry, I need to be taking the other guys.
Right, exactly.
And it's funny you mentioned that because it's kind of the frame of mind for what we have with Dalvin, in the sense that we don't have any Dalvin realistically, much Dalvin at all, but because we're so in on this offense, because the Vikings we think are going to be a really good offense, that leads us to taking a lot more Madison, in the sense where if we're going to make the bet against Dalvin, we're going to make the bet that this offense can be good, we have to take Madison at that point.
Oh man, rough. They deleted Will Fuller's bye week, by the way. I'm doing this off memory, but I'm pretty sure it used to say week 11 bye week, even as far as last week, and now they've officially removed that from his player.
Right.
tag.
Is that when the Dolphins buy is? Is that why it said that?
Yeah, they were just including him as a Dolphins player, and now it's officially been updated.
Yeah. So, also, I did some research on Dobbins. It looks like he's not going to play at all in the preseason, which is
no way.
It's concerning a little bit.
Yeah, that's very concerning. It didn't actually say for sure if it's been announced yet. It said that he's pushing to get on the field in the preseason, and Harbaugh doesn't want to rush him. So that doesn't sound like good.
I was the Ravens. I don't need to see Dobbins against preseason dudes. You can get that.
I need to see him against preseason dudes to draft him, but the Ravens probably don't.
Yeah, I'm in on JK.
I am too. I have him. That's why I'm so invested in this, is because I have him 14% owned. He's my 6th highest, 7th highest owned running back right now, because he falls to the 6th, 7th round half the time, and I'm man, at the very least, I think he'll give you 12, 15 rushing touchdown upside on the season.
I'm slightly I'm about average in terms of market on Dobbins right now. I have him at about 9.3%. Also, going back on the Madison versus Cook point, this is maybe a little crazy, but I have quite literally 0 Cook right now, and I have 22.5% Madison. So at least I'm making the bet there with 16%
Madison. I've mixed in Cook a few times because he's fallen to the early second a couple times for me, where I'm I should probably get some exposure there.
He always goes top 8 in drafts. I'm just not taking that at all.
I ended up with a 2-4-9-3. Not my favorite team I've ever built, but the pieces are there. Real strong at tight end.
Yeah, very strong at tight end.
The running back group, honestly, I do think I think it's right to throw in a 5th here, but whatever. We're super stacking the Patriots Dolphins game, I guess. And it's really, with the invested capital, it's just okay, I need these 2 guys pretty much every week, and then hopefully they give me something in the playoffs. And then the wide receiver, we got a lot of darts. Not a lot of guys I love in this range, but 3 dudes I like. And then I don't know. Pretty good team, but not the best.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, Brett says in the chat that Saquon is playing tonight, confirmed. He's going to be in. Also, we have a couple people that want you to take a quick look at their team. So the first one here, Spicy Hot in the chat. Y'all have the GOAT rate my team. He's picking at the 12 slot. So what do you think about Spicy Hot's team here?
Okay, let's see. He got your guy, Zach.
Zach
quarterback's totally fine with. Running back, you went with a hero and Saquon and then a bunch of darts. Seems fine to me. Wide receiver, some top end guys, and then some late round darts. I think you probably need another wide out here. And then you went 3 tight end, but really waited on your other 2 guys. So not the strongest team in the world, but I think it's fine. Maybe I drop Zamir White here and add another wide receiver dart. But I see like Julio, you should expect should be slowing down as the season goes. Renfroe, I want to like, but who knows what's going on there between the two pass catchers. Not really drafting a lot of these two dudes, but whatever. It's late round dart at tight end.
Yeah.
So,
What are your thoughts on rookies in general? Because I mean, obviously you reap the benefits of a rookie wide receiver scaling his production down the back half of the season. What are your thoughts on like, mixing in a lot of rookie wide receivers potentially in a build, or just having rookies on your team in general? How do you usually handle like?
Yeah, I'm generally in on most rookies. And I don't set any cap on my team like, max 2 rookies or anything. I think it's a mistake to have 0 rookies on a team usually. But yeah, like we like the rookies. It's in a certain situation. They have the chance to give you really big upside. So like Traylon Burks, I'm in on. Chris Olave, I'm in on. Especially if the draft capital's there. Got plenty of the rookies. And I do it at running back too. But like Tyler Algier, that's not a guy I've taken a lot of. I just don't see like a pure runner on a bad team burying me. And I'm a Cordero guy. We got to draft the sexy players.
I am actually like very much warming up to Cordero because I'm kind of surprised. I just assumed like everybody's going to be in on Cordero after last year.
He's just so old, man.
Like round 7, and that never happened.
Yeah, I mean, he got up there for a bit with he got up there for a bit on some sites, but he's back down here, and it's like the real question is, can he hold up for like? I think the nut outcome is that he just starts playing wide receiver, like and gets
also
all the high value touches.
Sorry, quick news too. Apparently NBC Sports put this out 6 minutes ago that Watson proposed to the NFL an 8-game ban with a $5 million fine. Watson's can't propose to the NFL.
Interesting.
So 2 more games than what Sue Robinson proposed, but I mean, we could see potential progress.
That's a large fine, man. That is a lot of money. Like that's what's his name? It also shows for the NFL's like PR sake too that they don't just care about money, because they gave what was the 1.5 million was what the Dolphins owner had to pay for tampering.
Mm-hmm.
So at least from a monetary perspective, they can be like, hey, see, we care more about this. We fined him 5 million instead of the 1.5 to the billionaire owner.
Yeah, I'm not been drafting Deshaun. I play the pass catcher sometimes, but a quarterback is just very unlikely to be the piece that you need anyways.
Right. I got a lot of them in the Superflex puppy, but not as much.
In the Superflex, absolutely. The other 2 things I wanted to ask too are 106 and what is that?
GME Holder and then Brick G both want your
expert opinion.
Yeah.
2682. I build a lot of teams this way. Solid running back crew. Lot of wide receivers I like from here plus. And, like these 2 guys or whatever. And then you went with 2 tight end. I probably would have dropped the Devin Duvernay or Van Jefferson and thrown another tight end strictly for week 17 reasons, even with Pitts, where like with me having Noah Fant last year, he was at 2% ownership or whatever, like it's a really high variance position, and Pitts can still be the guy that gets you there to the finals, but then you have that extra dart at tight end to help you separate from the 460 teams or whatever. I don't know the size of the Puppy 3 finals, but for BBM3, and then two star quarterbacks. So good team. You correlated. Not a ton of week 17 correlation, but that's not always essential.
Right.
Perfect.
And also, like you go to Brick G's team real quick, but the thing I wanted to ask you about the week 17 correlation is it to a point yet where people are going to start to force it, or do you think it's because like it wasn't people like talked about it occasionally in passing last year, but now it's like a central like focusing point because people have analyzed your lineup and realized that that's what happened. Do you think everybody's, maybe overcorrecting now?
I think it's hard to realize when you're in a bubble of information, like do I think 455,000 people are hip to week 17 correlation?
That is true. Yeah, that's a good point. I might just be like,
not.
Everybody's talking about this, and it might only actually be like 25,000 of the entries that.
It's hard to calculate like how many people actually are using a strategy. People are going to fall into week 17 stuff anyways, just because the sharp people have made the ADPs that way. Unquestionably, if you're not reaching to make it happen, I think it's good. But you know, like I've had some sharp DFS people on my channel, and they don't always force game stacks when they make their lineups. You know, it's a little bit different with salary versus ADP, but in general, I try to do it. But you can play it in ways that people don't realize, right? Like if you take Leonard Fournette and Godwin on a team, and you take no Panthers, here's how you played the Week 17 correlation: that the Bucs beat the shit out of the Panthers. You know, like, and that seems like a logical thing that could happen. You know,
it happens literally every time we play the Panthers.
Yeah, like right, like you don't have to get the bring back always, or there's different ways you can do it. So
yeah, no.
Kirk, Jameis, Tannehill, fine group of 3. Like Tannehill's fine here. You could stop at 2 though with these 2 to me. I get adding a third. Running back crew, you know, fine. You got some exciting pieces here. We'll see how Henry does this year. Wide receiver crew seems pretty good to me. Kyle Phillips, like, you know, I know he's getting a lot of buzz and he's talented, but my real question is how much slot is the Titans even going to roll out? And maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't.
Might have just been the Tannehill correlation too. You didn't really have a
but even so, like that's a case where I would not force it. Now it is a last pick, so that's nice. But you know, like Tannehill can do it on the ground. Like this is a guy who could score 7 rushing touchdowns 2 seasons in a row. You know, so you don't need the piece there, and you already have Derrick Henry. So whatever, Tannehill to Derrick Henry, that happens. And I think you're too weak at tight end. Like I really like Schultz. Brevin Jordan's an interesting piece, but I would drop like a Kyle Phillips, and
you could have grabbed Hooper probably with that Kyle Phillips pick.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how much he moves the needle, but it's still a Titans pass catcher, and you get another tight end.
Yeah, just getting a different dart at tight end is something I'm trying to do a little bit more this year for finals purposes, not advancing purposes.
Yeah, because I mean, you kind of mentioned with tight end because it's such a variable position. There's so much variance that happens there. You said it, having an extra dart there, having an extra potential piece that, you know, randomly has a 3 for 60 and 2 touchdown game. Like you can't predict that most of the time at the tight end position. At wide receiver, I mean, you expect a lot of those top guys, or you expect a lot of the numbers that you built up to be able to replace that production. But with tight end, again, you kind of mentioned like the tight end 7 on a week is probably scoring what, 12 points, 14 points.
4, maybe like it can be real low, you know.
Like,
Ultimately, what's
on the
good
week.
at tight end
Sometimes
is
really
scores
top
touchdowns.
weeks.
You know, like it's who falls in the end zone twice is the tight end that you want week 17, which is either going to be the elite guys or some random darts late. You know.
Yeah, because I mean, like the main purpose again for the main elite tight end would be, as you kind of said, with advancing. And once you're there, once you've already advanced, you can't predict what's going to happen in that 1 week DFS winner take all type of situation.
Yeah, I know my own personal best team last year too was a 3 tight end build where I had Gronkowski, Freiermuth, and Evan Ingram. I think on the team were the 3 tight ends that I had, which obviously they all had Gronk and Freiermuth specifically scored some touchdown weeks that obviously helped.
And you got those guys late, so those
Gronk was like my first pick at tight end. He would have been like a 12th, 13th rounder or whatever, and then Freiermuth was probably like my 16th rounder, and then Ingram was probably around the same range kind of area. I don't actually remember where Ingram was going off the top of my head last year.
He was actually kind of expensive, but Freiermuth was free.
Freiermuth was around 18 because him and Ebron, like I consistently altered.
Yeah, I got a lot of Freiermuth last year towards the end.
I was Ebron, and so that was a mistake.
Yeah, I was super overweight on Blake Jarwin, so I feel that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we solved the bull case for him with what exactly Dalton Schultz just did.
Picked the wrong tight end.
Like, I mean, the process was clearly fucking there. It's just we picked the wrong tight end. You know what I mean?
So non-wars and said in the chat, well, most underrated running back thoughts. It could be an early guy, mid-round guys, late-round guys, whatever.
Everyone at running back position at any range.
Yeah, who's just the most underrated running back? Who's going too low?
That's all right. Well, let's choose a late round guy. You know, it's too easy to say a top guy. So let's choose a guy from the 14th round plus. I would say it's one of these handcuff situations where people don't like if Derrick Henry goes down.
Yeah, Haskins is a good pick. I might have to
My-
start getting a little bit like he's one that I just haven't been clicking the button on, and you're right. Like the case makes as much sense as like a Madison case. Obviously,
people
Madison
don't
might be
want
a
to
better
click
player,
buttons,
but-
and the other thing is like Dontrell Hilliard is still there, so like I draft both, but people don't want to click the buttons in uncertain situations because there's other situations that they have more clarity on, and so look, killing some of your teams or some of your teams being dead is fine if you hit on the other half where you're mixing it in.
Right. I don't think you care about the teams that missed last year after winning it.
No, of course
Let's put
not.
it that
Right?
way.
Like
So, like you hit the nuts last year. I don't think you're thinking about that team where you're like, I can't believe I passed on that player because I, wanted to have my team advance. Like I had a bunch of teams advance last year, and I'm definitely not satisfied with what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it like the advance rate, like I put out a tweet just like sharing the math on that is like each team advanced, you're only getting a team like if you advance all 150 teams to the playoffs, 60% of the time mathematically you would get a team to the finals. 40% of the time if you advance all 150 using BBM2 advance rates, you would not get a team to the finals even.
Because crazy.
Because it's 1 out of 10 and that's 1 out of 16. And then it's the odds that you advance the mathematical teams you have left over.
Right.
So basically,
60% of the time it works every time is what that math was.
Wait, so basically what we're saying is we can have a bunch of theory, we can have a bunch of structure, we can draft as optimally as we possibly can going into the year. But at the end of the day, if you want to fucking win some money, you got to get some stuff on your side. You got to get some luck on your side at times. I mean, for a 460,000 person tournament, I mean, it's simple. Like you got
to draft the best players. You got to get lucky, obviously, but at the same time, you also can help control your luck in a couple ways. Like, I personally don't think about week 15 stacks, week 16 stacks. Like, if they're in my teams, that's a happy accident. It's pure week 17, either the matchup or the game stack or whatever, So, and I'll mix in some guys who I think are going to just be potentially league winners, like, and so they're going to be really high owned, but, and just shooting for ceiling with most of your picks, I think is fine too. A 0 does not hurt you as much as people think. Like, no one likes a 0 on your team, but like I had technically 2 zeros on my team pretty much last year. Diami Brown did not do anything, and Justin Fields, I don't think contributed a point to the team, over Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's wild.
I also wanted to add to, because you mentioned the late round running backs, and I mentioned his name earlier, but I just keep going back to Sony Michel. I mean, it's so easy, it's so obvious of a name because people are going to be like, oh no, he's gross, inefficient, like he's not going to get a full-fledged workhorse type of role. But you kind of mentioned it from a DFS frame of mind. Like, if Miami's offense does take that next step, and if they're getting a lot of red zone,
they could be like a sneaky 11-12 win team, or they could just not sniff the playoffs. Like,
they're kind of reminding me of like 2020 Browns, or no, what year was that? The Freddie Kitchens Browns,
the hyped up year of the Browns you're talking about.
The 2019 Browns, when Beckham first got there and Freddie Kitchens was the coach. They
but
kind of give me those kind of vibes
the
right now.
Defense is good. It's everything but the O-line and they got Armstead, I think.
Armstead, yeah,
Tehran.
So
there's one good offensive lineman on that team.
Yeah, the O-line is a big question, but the way their offense is designed is like just quick outs to Tyreek and Waddle potentially. I don't know. I think they like their defense.
They could definitely be good, but it hinges on the line.
Who's the AFC East play? I forget.
They have a I think they have a cake schedule, if I'm not mistaken. I think they play the North and the East.
We have it the AFC East schedule is way harder this year than it was
North
last year. So play the North, which either has 2 or 3 good teams.
Their playoff schedule is rough too. I'm not going to lie. I mean, there's potential again if their offense takes a step up and takes a step up, we could see potentially high scoring affairs.
The Patriots could be really bad.
Yeah,
that's the thing I'm worried about.
Are talking about Jalen Mills as their clear number 1 corner right now. Like they lose.
Yeah, people just want to say that the Patriots are going to have a good defense.
Yeah, Patriots defense, stay away from the Patriots pass defense. But, you know, Gilmore and JC Jackson ain't there anymore. Like, it could be really bad, especially, you know, against the pass.
Yeah.
Their safeties are strong on New England, so that could maybe help save them. But, like, yeah, their secondary is awful. And, I mean, so they play the Bills, the Packers, and then New England.
Yeah,
the Dolphins do in the playoffs.
The reason why I wanted to mention that
teams, they might be like some of the best defenses in the league. The Bills and the Packers could be really.
That's
really
what I'm
good.
worried about. But again,
garbage time, whatever, you know.
Yeah,
it's a round 18 pick. So like, even if he contributes to your lineup at all, like
right. And if you advance those guys to week 17 against the Patriots and they dumpster the Patriots in week 17, then it's possible.
How sweet would it be if you won BBM3 on a Sony Michel revenge game against the Patriots?
Oh, gotta work in the revenge game narrative, man. That's essential.
You absolutely love to see it.
For sure. All right. We'll probably pop out of here now. Been on here for, you know, an hour and 20 or so. Appreciate you, Liam, for coming on here. You know, if you ever want us on your channel, he's got a YouTube channel. Make sure you guys check it out. He's running streams all the time. He's got tons of great guests as well. I know you've had, you know, Davis and fucking Herzig and all those dudes on there as well. So make sure you guys check out his YouTube channel. I believe is it just Liam Murphy? It's just your name, right?
Yep. Yeah, Liam Murphy. If you type in fantasy or best ball or something, I think I'll come up. Got some streams. Got 2 tomorrow. I think I'm gonna do. Might stream the FFPC main event. I don't know if you guys ever get in those season-long streets. And got a couple streams next week coming up. And yeah, you can just follow me on Twitter at ChessLiam. I usually post my content there. And thanks for having me on, guys. This was fun chatting.
Unfortunately, we did not get a big dog going, but we did rip
next time.
Rip a nice pup. But yeah, either way, appreciate you and take care, y'all. Enjoy the day.